Rebecca, let's get into it. You have 3 interviewers. Each of us have approximately 5 minutes with your response. There is a timer who will flash when time. I actually have the privilege of asking potentially 3 questions. We'll try and get to minimally 2. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about vision. You know, Philadelphia has the ability to be a world-class city, and the question for you, if you're mayor, what's your vision for that world-class education system? Think 10 years, 20 years out. And what are the 3 levers as mayor you will pull to achieve that vision?
So, good afternoon. My name is Rebecca Rhynhart. My vision for the school district is to have a high-quality education for every child in our school system. My daughter is in 7th grade in the public school system, and I believe strongly that every child should have a good school to go to. My vision in 10 years, 10 years for the school district is to have every school with a nurse and a social worker, every school having quality education so that we have much better educational attainment than 30% reading at grade level in 3rd grade, that we have true opportunity from all of our schools, whether they be traditional public or charter, that our whole school system is improving.
Excellent. So you've talked a lot on the campaign trail about accountability, right? Specifically coming out of COVID, we all know what the data tells us about what happened with our young people. So talk a bit about how do you think about holding the school board and the superintendent accountable, and what will you do to help?
So accountability is so important. And what I will do is appoint a school board first that shares my vision for a long-term transformation of the schools, and then set goals and metrics for improvement that all of the stakeholders agree to. So the superintendent, the school board members, parents, educators, that we have metrics so that every different component of the school district system is measuring itself towards a goal of progress. And as mayor, I will be extremely hands-on with this process. The mayor appoints the school board. That's huge, huge potential for transformation, and I will lead that through accountability. That's the way forward, in my view.
Thank you. So let's pivot a bit to facilities, right? It's common knowledge we have a facilities issue here in Philadelphia. Let's talk about the how. How do you imagine a new portfolio of buildings? What do they look like? How do you envision right sizing to include community input? And then ultimately, how would you pay for it?
So the quality of our school buildings is well known to be not acceptable, completely unacceptable. The lead, the asbestos, the buildings just haven't been kept up over time. The cost on this is estimated to be $5 billion plus. And our kids deserve to have that transformation. What it looks like to me is buildings that are clean and safe, that are air conditioned and heated appropriately, buildings that are truly modern, okay? Now, how to pay for it? $5 billion, the city can't do that alone. So what I will do is push the state and the federal government to provide money for this. It is completely unacceptable that this has been allowed to stay the way it has been. It's not acceptable. And as a mom, as the mayor, I will say to the state, it will be my #1 priority with the state, that we must get this money to fix our schools. And I know numbers. I was the budget director for 5 years. I know what the city can afford and what it can't. I also know when we need to advocate at the state and federal levels for the money we need for all of our kids, and our kids deserve better than what they're getting right now.
Thank you, Aaliyah.
So my first question is really, I think, in speaking for so many communities, there is a need to do more to have violence prevention. There are so many families that are finding it hard for their children to navigate before school and then be safe in school, but also then coming out of school. In fact, I participated with Corners to Connection with G. Lamar Stewart, where we did violence interruption, and there were so many children after 9 o'clock at night still walking the streets and not with places like the Linflesh Center and places like that to go. So what are some of the solutions that you would do as mayor to help children feel more safe inside and outside of school?
Yeah. So part of my education plan is to align city services with the school district. Because right now they're not aligned, and my vision is for the city to align its library hours and its rec programming hours so that we have good after-school programming in the communities that need it the most, where the kids need a place to be and they need the activities across our city, but we need to be specifically focused on the most violent areas of our city, the 14 zip codes that have the most violence, so our kids have a place to go. And then within the school buildings, we need to make sure that there is safety. If kids are being disruptive, and in most schools it's a small number of kids that are disruptive in the school building, they need to be pulled out of the classroom, but then treated with care, right? They need to be cared for to see what's wrong that's creating the issue for their outburst in the classroom, while the rest of the students can continue learning. And that, to me, is the way to go about it, that we have to have trauma treatment and we have to treat each child for the trauma that is going on in our communities today, in our city. That's what safety looks like to me, both safety from physical violence and safety from just emotional trauma as well.
So thank you for that. And I think it's every child's basic right to feel safe. And then once safe, we want to make sure they have high quality education. You just spoke about trauma and how it impacts some of our children to the point of such dysregulation that they're not necessarily safe for themselves or others. So what does this safety and trauma look like so that that child to whom may need these timeouts, what does that look like in a school system?
So I think that, the city spends $1 billion a year on behavioral health. The state and federal government gives the city of Philadelphia $1 billion, and we don't focus on that enough so that it reaches the kids in our schools. And the way that I would look at it would be, if a school does not have a therapist, then we should be working within our Department of Behavioral Health to make sure that that school has access to therapists from the Department of Behavioral Health. And the therapists need to be culturally competent. They need to have similar lived experience so that the kids can relate to the therapist, and the therapist can relate to the kids. And that's something that I believe absolutely needs to happen. And we need to make sure that we're truly treating the trauma and understanding it, the trauma from gun violence and the trauma from poverty. There's so much, and we all know the negative impact that can have on emotional, dysregulation, on numbing, on just all of the different things that can happen, that we need to break that cycle by caring and by loving our kids.
So we have so many vacancies in some schools, and not just in the school district, but just in our urban city of Philadelphia. We need more black teachers, but we also need more paras. We need more school support officers, all kinds of positions. So what is your stance on how to retain and recruit more diversified workforce?
So first, we have to better support the workforce within our schools. So we need to make the schools safer, and we need to provide this support. I mean, we have teachers alone in the classroom, and they have 28, 30 kids. And they have IEPs for many of the kids. There's no way to not have burnout in that situation. So what we need to do, and as mayor, what I would do would be to make sure that our teachers and our workers within the school district were more supported, that the buildings were safe, but also that there were nurses and social workers in our schools, and that we're aligning city services with that. Once we do that, then at least we can be stopping the outward flow of teachers and workers that are exhausted from working in the school district. And then we need to recruit in a diverse manner from HBCUs to make sure that we're promoting diverse workforce within the city, and that we're creating a good pathway for paraprofessionals to become teachers. We can do all this, I'm confident, but we need to start with safety and then go from there.
Thank you, Rebecca. So nationally in 2017, the poverty rate for working people with a high school diploma was 6.2%, which was almost twice as high as working people with an associate's degree, and over 4 times higher than people with a bachelor's degree. And this relationship between education and poverty is consistent for Black, Hispanic, and white students alike. So my question for you is, how can the mayor's office work with our colleges and universities across the city to ensure that all Philadelphians have equitable access to the kinds of career opportunities and earnings unlocked by a post-secondary education?
I think it's so important that we work with CCP and other entities to make sure that we provide the education and the pathways that are necessary. I also think that we need to create, really support technical training in our high schools. And we need to make sure that all of the school district schools are carrying the same courses. I know that some high schools aren't carrying the same level of algebra and other course load that's necessary. So we need to make sure that there's equity. And when I say equity, what I mean is that each school is giving the kids an opportunity, a true opportunity to achieve, whether that be through an educational and college-bound pathway, or whether that's a technical training pathway. We're not doing enough to provide our kids with different pathways. And then CCP is an incredibly important partner in scaling up for workforce. The city of Philadelphia has thousands and thousands of vacancies while we have people in our neighborhoods that need jobs. So as mayor, I would create pathways from our poorest neighborhoods into good-paying jobs at the city. There's so many jobs, fleet mechanics, and all of these other jobs, in addition to teachers. So absolutely, we can do better by creating that synergy.
So you mentioned a couple times that CCP would play a pivotal role in that vision. As the former city controller and as someone who just said you've seen the budgets, when we were putting these questions together, we did seek input from our faculty, our staff, and students. And one of the questions specifically, well, one theme in all the questions was around funding for the Community College of Philadelphia. And so, given your prior positions as controller, knowing the numbers, do you think that the Community College of Philadelphia is adequately resourced to meet the needs of Philadelphia? And if not, what steps would you take to ensure that it is adequately resourced to meet the needs?
I think that would be a conversation that I would want to have. I think CCP needs to have the funding necessary to do everything that it does, and to make sure that tuition is not increasing in a way that's detrimental to our kids, and that we're providing the right pathways. I hesitate by giving a specific before giving a specific number, because I would want to talk with CCP and understand where your pain points are, where additional funding would go a really long way, because I think that's a conversation we should be having, given the important role that CCP plays.
Sure. Are there any, so knowing that there's certainly a number of pain points that you'd want to engage the college leadership and faculty around to identify what those are, but do you have a sense of what any pain points might already exist for a community college in a city like Philadelphia when it comes to cost, affordability, and how you might, what steps you might take specifically to drive those costs down or help to drive those costs down?
Right. I'm sure a big pain point is tuition, right? because students, many are first-time college students in their families, and I'm sure tuition's a pain point. I would be interested to see what we can do at the state level and then at the city level combined to make that, to lower the cost to the student. That's what I would be interested in doing. And I think that both the state and the city play a role in that. But what I don't want is students to be taking on student debt. I think student debt has been a massive, massive issue in our city and around the country. And it's just not, we should not be moving forward in that direction. So with that in mind, I look forward to problem solving the issue and seeing what we can do.
Thank you.
Rebecca, closing 30 seconds. Anything you want the audience to know about your platform?
30 seconds, wow, okay. Education, no, I'm a strong, strong believer in the need to improve our public education here in Philadelphia. As mayor, it will be one of my very top priorities. The only one, that will be, more on day one is to get the violence under control in our city, make our city safer. But the schools are the opportunity. The schools are the future. And we have so many kids in our city that need that opportunity. And as mayor, I will work every day with you as educators, as part of the school system, to make that a reality, to make improvement a reality. And the buck will stop with me as mayor. I want to be responsible because I want to see that improvement, and I want our kids to have a shot here for a better life. Thank you.
Excellent. Please join me in thanking candidate Rhynhart.
Thank you so much.